I'll go through the list of salutations, and if the other people want to use the cliche, all protocols being observed, they may, or they may go through the salutation list again. I advise the former to keep proceedings tight. So, Honorable Lovell Francis, Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Professor Kenneth S. Julian, Emeritus Professor, TC, and TC is Trinity Cross, not Top Cat. Top Cat is a cartoon I loved. He is the Top Cat. He's the Chairman of the Board of Governors of UTT. Other members of the Board of Governors of UTT, His Excellency Ambassador Aaron Biesbrook, I hope I pronounced that correctly. He's the head of the delegation of the European Union to Trinidad and Tobago. Professor Saram Al-Zubaidi, President of UTT. Professor Colin Giles, Deputy President of UTEC, Jamaica. Special welcome to you, sir, having come from so far. It's at least 1,000 miles. It's a bit far. Thank you for coming. Faculty, staff, and students of UTT, presenters and researchers, industry partners and stakeholders, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. The person who will do the actual welcome, which I did not see, would be Professor Saram Al-Zubaidi, the president of UTT. He's a fellow of many professional bodies, including the Institution of Engineers Australia, the Institution of Mechanical Engineers, that's an international body based in the UK, the Royal Aeronautical Society, and he's fellows of all these, the Energy Institute, the Institute of Engineers Australia, the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. Of course, he's a chartered engineer, being a fellow of IMechE, and he is an APEC engineer and chartered environmentalist. APEC is a consortium of American and Pacific engineering bodies. Professor Al-Zubaidi has also been awarded the Principal Fellowship of the Higher Education Academy in 2015. That's a very rare distinction for an engineer. He's a registered consultant and has spent several years advising industry and has initiated and attracted large sums of funding for research projects, as an academic, of course. He has acted as an external examiner for postgraduate students of institutions in the UK, USA, Malaysia, Dubai, Australia, New Zealand, and Jamaica, where he spent 2 years at UTEC. So without further detaining you, I will ask Professor Al-Zubaidi to come to the podium and do his thing.
that the university has undertaken. Through oral and poster presentations, UTT's researchers will share their findings with the wider community on a number of thematic areas, those of which are closely aligned to the national programs of the country's Vision 2030 strategic plan. As a national university, UTT plays a critical role in increasing the levels of productivity and global competitiveness of Trinidad and Tobago. This means that our graduates must be equipped with the required skill set, knowledge, and technical capacity to contribute efficiently and effectively to the nation's growth and sustainable development. From an institutional viewpoint, the main function of research is to generate new knowledge, which should be utilized for advancement of society. At UTT, we have made research our priority, as quality research will result in a number of benefits for UTT's academic staff and, by extension, the university. These include an upward movement for UTT in the university world ranking and the encouragement of independent and critical thinking among faculty and students, which is required if UTT is to foster a culture of research and compete in the global sphere. It is only by building a strong knowledge-based society that solutions to some of the most complex challenges will become readily available. Today's research symposium comes amidst some of the university's most recent notable achievements and accomplishments. This academic year, 2017-2018, has indeed been a pivotal one for us in the realization of our main objective, which is to make UTT a premier institution in the local and global tertiary landscape. Already during this period, UTT can boast of extraordinary achievements. In 12 months, UTT has made an incredible leap of almost 1,000 places upward in the world ranking of universities on web metrics. For a university that is young, established only less than 15 years ago, this is a huge accomplishment, and one which should make the people of Trinidad and Tobago extremely proud of their national university. UTT now sits in the top 22% of universities worldwide. I can assure you that UTT will not stop here. With the university's growing focus on research, UTT will continue on this upward trend as we continue to be a world-class institution forging ahead in world rankings. In December 2017, UTT was awarded continuing institutional accreditation by the Accreditation Council of Trinidad and Tobago for the maximum period of 7 years, i.e. until 2024. Many engineering and ICT programs are also specially accredited with international bodies. Plans are already underway for international accreditation for many more of UTT's programs. The launch of UTT's personal tutor program, held in February 2018, is yet another student-centered initiative, which is aimed at ensuring academic success for UTT students. Institutionally, 125 faculty are actively involved in research at UTT. This academic year, the university celebrated the first publication released from UTT's Advanced Center for Coastal and Oceanic Research and Development, which appeared in the international journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. The study, entitled "The Gravity of Human Impacts Mediates Coral Reef Conservation Gains," was done in collaboration with leading European universities and other researchers. This study has far-reaching implications for the world's marine environments. Just over 300 research students at the MPhil and PhD levels are supervised by UTT faculty, while 125 taught master's students are required to do a research project as part of their postgraduate studies. On the graduate side, approximately 400 final year bachelor students conduct research projects, including that of prototyping. As the regional forerunner for aviation research, education, and training, UTT is doing its part to impact this industry that affects all of us. The university will introduce the Bachelor of Science in Aeronautical and Airworthiness Engineering in September 2018. This program will be the first in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean to be accredited by the Royal Aeronautical Society, with the UTT Aviation Campus to be EASA, European Aviation Safety Agency, certified. This program will not only welcome nationals of Trinidad and Tobago, but our doors are also open to regional and international students. In 2018, UTT also established the Caribbean Center of Expertise in Aviation Safety, which is a multidisciplinary research group designed to carry out research into issues of aviation safety while focusing overall on the very high level of system integrity. One of the aims of UTT is to strive for sustainability. With that in mind, we recognize that the need to revisit and refine our processes while at the same time ensuring that all of our students remain our number one priority. UTT also recognizes the importance of multidisciplinary research and has initiated a number of programs in its quest towards becoming Center for Value-Added Research and Development of the entire Caribbean region. This research symposium facilitates the university's research agenda and showcases research on one cohesive platform. I am excited to be part of this noteworthy initiative as it demonstrates bold and visionary thinking. I say with confidence that today's presentations will yield fruitful results and potentially positively impact the lives of many on a national, regional, and international level. I trust that you will immerse yourself in the discussions and wisely use this opportunity to forge sustainable collaborative arrangements amongst your peers and industry stakeholders. In closing, I anticipate that the outputs of today's research symposium will provide the foundation of further development of UTT's research agenda. With the complex challenges of today, it is imperative that UTT delivers high-quality tertiary education that promotes innovation and creativity. To the presenters and researchers, your work is a mark of your integrity and should always be held in high esteem. I trust that through your efforts, UTT's research agenda will be kept at the forefront. I encourage you to continue, aspire, innovate, and create as we look forward to the future with a united purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Normally what MCs do is to give a little recap of what people say. I am not usual, so I will not do that. The next person, and it's also in deference to the next person who's going to speak, Professor Kenneth S. Julian. S is for Stephen. I learned that over 40 years ago. At which time I sat in a room at UWI. Lord, I'm betraying my age, close to 40 years ago, where a young, tall, handsome professor would walk into the room, no notes, and 2 sticks of chalk. And at the end of the lecture, he would leave, and when he would come back to the next lecture, he'd ask, where did I stop? And he would continue. Famous, chalk all over his face, chalk all over his clothes, but no notes. That is Professor Julian. So for over 4 decades, he has been a driving force in the development of engineering education and the industrial sector, particularly the national energy sector. He was the first West Indian Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, and it was in 1964. It's not on this page here, but I know. And he was Dean for 10 years, the longest Dean we have had in the Faculty of Engineering up to now. And that's at St. Augustine, at UB St. Augustine, of course, not at UTT. UTT hasn't started yet. And he was the first Caribbean national to attain the rank of Fellow of the internationally acclaimed Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, the largest such engineering learned society in the world. He also holds patents for electrical systems and has published extensively in this field. Way back in 1974, Professor Julian chaired the Energy Coordinating Task Force, which examined the potential use of natural gas. I used to spend a lot of Easters in Mearu as a young fellow, and all I would see is gas being flared from the offshore platforms, which we had even then. But Professor Julian was the one who spearheaded the more productive use of natural gas rather than flaying it. For industries such as methanol, production of methanol, ammonia, iron and steel, and of course power generation. He steered post-independence industrial development through his directorship of the National Energy Corporation, the Industrial Development Corporation, IDC, and the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission, among other companies. He has guided Trinidad and Tobago's industrial thrust in local energy, technological innovation, and human capital, achieving this in part through his role in the formation and chairmanship of CURIRI, MIC, both places with which I have been intimately involved. His chairmanship of ETEC, Evolving Technologies and Enterprise Development Limited. His chairman and presidency and founding of the University of Trinidad and Tobago, and his leadership of KNSJ Systems Limited, a consulting company specializing in energy systems, this company playing a critical role in the development and expansion of the hydrocarbon sector in Africa. For his outstanding service to Trinidad and Tobago, Professor Julian was awarded the highest honor, the Trinity Cross, in 2003, and has been awarded an honorary doctorate among too many honors for me to mention here. Professor Julian, I ask you to come and take over from me, sir, at this podium and microphone. I'm sure they'll listen to you more than they've just listened to me.
Honorable Minister of Francis, members of the Board of Governors, other distinguished guests, including some visitors from abroad, President UTT, Professor Carlos, Deputy President of UTEC, welcome, particularly from Jamaica, faculty, staff, and students, UTT, presenters and researchers, most important, industry partners and stakeholders, special invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Having heard Professor Ember, you can now appreciate why in Trinidad we say everybody needs a deputy. He does all the right things at the right time, and therefore, as I said, those of you who are not familiar with Trinidad Calypsonians, you should try and get a copy of that calypso that says everyone needs a deputy. And you'll appreciate what I just said. Honorable Minister, it's a pleasure having you here. We are aware that you are required elsewhere today, and we appreciate you having found the time to be here. We have a visitor from Jamaica. We appreciate his presence as well. And Ambassador Basbrook, head of the EU delegation. Pleasure having you here. And most important, of course, our president, faculty, staff, and students of UTT. Presenters and researchers, and if you look at the program, you'll see that some of the topics are very complex, very interesting, most welcome. Our industry partners and stakeholders, specially invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First, apologies from the Honorable Prime Minister, who is unable to attend as he's part of a cabinet retreat, but he's asked that I provide him with a full report of the proceedings. This is always a dangerous thing to do, because if he reads it, he may cut our funding, particularly within the constraints of today. So we'll prepare a nice brochure and say how wonderful we are and how wonderful you are today and how wonderful these proceedings are. And hopefully, we're not going to get any more money, but hopefully we won't have any cuts in the near future. This is an inaugural research symposium. It is an event of some significance, as it highlights an element of the university's mandate. It is useful after years of existence at UTT to remind ourselves, and indeed to draw once more to the attention of the national community of the university, national committee, UTT's vision and mission. Let me just repeat that, take a few minutes of your time, because it's important both for the national community, or faculty, or corporate staff, or president, or board of directors, and indeed the national community, ever so often be reminded of the role and the rationale behind setting up UTT. This is important because those of you familiar, like I was, I spent 35 years at UWI. The question sometimes has arisen, why a UTT, which is now started in 2004. We had a very successful University of West Indies, of which Trinidad was a very significant partner, and which has produced tremendous graduates, prime ministers, etc., etc. And therefore, one ever so often has to ask the question, why a UTT? I would simply state its vision and mission as was given to us. The vision of UTT is to be the premier university dedicated, and very specifically dedicated, to the socio-economic transformation of Trinidad and Tobago with global reach and international standing. Those of you who are familiar with the economic development of the Caribbean, the English-speaking Caribbean, which are all part of UWI and part of the university where I myself spent some 35 years, would know or recognize the Trinidad's development, its roadmap, as it were, for development, because of our hydrocarbon resources, was very different from the other islands. Not taken away from what they did and their own contribution, but we had embarked, driven by our energy resources, on an entirely different road. And it is in that, it's against that background that a national university, I tend to use the National University, I never say National University of Trinidad and Tobago. The initials may give a different impression of what we are. I never talk of us as MUTT, because that may create an impression that I think is not worthy of the university. But our national university, without prejudice to the excellent work being done by UWI and the continued work of UWI, it was created, one, at that point in time, and hopefully, Mr. Minister, the government can still afford us, but at that point in time, the government of Trinidad and Tobago was able to afford another institution of this nature, and UTT was established. And it was established with a very specific objective, not taken away in any way from the role and the vision of UWI. It was established focus on the socio-economic transformation of Trinidad and Tobago with global reach and international standing. I served as Dean of the School of Engineering for several years at UWI. And during that period, we all had to be concerned, although the Faculty of Engineering was in Trinidad. And we have, you've heard from an excellent example of what we produced, although I think he sometimes pretends otherwise, Professor Imber. And it was the only Faculty of Engineering at that time. There's now one in Jamaica, of course. At that time, the vision was not focused just on Trinidad and Tobago. Originally, we were the only faculty of engineering, in fact, in the whole Caribbean region. So the mandate at the time was much broader and maybe deeper. Today, of course, our mission, and we read this and we have it on the wall all over the place, is to contribute to the sustainable development of society through the advancement and application of research, dissemination of knowledge, and public engagement in our pursuit to produce work-ready graduates, most important, work-ready graduates and critical thinkers. Let me emphasize one part of this which is sometimes lost. Universities, many of them have the ivory tower image. They live in a closed environment. They pursue scholarship, very useful, excellent work, but without thinking of the impact of that scholarship and the work they're doing on the national community. At UTT, we're very conscious of this, and we're trying to ensure two things. First, that the work we do within UTT and the results of our work is shared with the national community. And on the other hand, we also share or hear from the community and identify with their needs and see how best their experiences can help us, and what we have we can share with them. To the extent that we do have an outreach group, I don't want to use department, an outreach program that deliberately goes out there and brings to the attention of the National Committee what we are doing, but more important, hear from our national community ideas, activities that also benefit the university and our students. And that's one of the things we're very proud of and something that we want to emphasize in the future more than ever. So, in simple terms, UTT will continue to contribute to the sustainable development of society through the advancement and application of research, and today is one example of this, dissemination of knowledge, and public engagement in our pursuit to produce work-ready graduates and critical thinkers. These sound like ordinary words, but we should recall and remember and remind ourselves that many universities have the ivory tower image, where they do what they think attracts them, and really ignore whether the work that they do will have any impact, either positive or negative, on the community that supports them. We are hoping and we are pursuing to be different at UTT. All that we do, we try to align with national objectives of Trinidad and Tobago. And to achieve that, our structure is very different. We don't have departments, we don't have faculties. We have programs of activity, and that programs of activity allows the removal of any silo thinking. You know, this is my little piece of world, and it doesn't matter what's happening outside, which is a silo approach to universities. Our trust is two things. One, be always conscious of national objectives, and secondly, encourage cooperation between professors and students and industry to ensure that where we're heading will eventually lead to some significant contribution to our economy. And we do that without losing the intent of any university, which is the advancement and application of research, dissemination of knowledge, and public engagement in a pursuit to produce work-ready graduates and critical thinkers. This mission is being aggressively pursued, but as well established, the impact of universities through the contribution of its graduates, its activity in research and overall dissemination of knowledge is not normally realized in the short term, but begins to show results in the medium term and eventually seen in the longer term. UTT, on one hand, is very lucky in the sense that its mission and vision was determined by the shareholders, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. As such, it does not have the luxury of establishing teaching programs or research activities determined almost exclusively by the professors. Our mission clearly states that the advancement and application of research dissemination of knowledge is a priority element of our mandate. But unlike most universities, UTT is expected to take an active role and leadership in the dissemination of knowledge. This will distinguish universities from many other tertiary institutions. However, whether meeting this challenge successfully will depend on a university which encompasses all of its students, academic and corporate staff. The concept of a university simply being a factory for producing graduates is totally rejected by UTT. As I conveyed in a recent meeting held with the alumni, the community of UTT embraces all levels of staff and, most importantly, all certificate holders and graduates, including postgraduates. The point I was trying to make to a representative group of our past students was that once you enter the gates of UTT, you become part of a university community, and you should never leave. You should always have in front of you that I am part of that community. And I'm hoping that these graduates will begin to interface more regularly with us at UTT to ensure that that family remains reasonably intact. Over a period of time, this community of scholars and those in pursuit of scholarship will have a significant impact on the development of the country as envisaged in the vision and mission previously stated. UTT has to continue to face the challenges of meeting the objectives of its vision and the goals of its mission. It cannot be just another university competing for students and funding from the same source. We complement the work that we do, that UWI does, but it's against that background that UTT has established programs that do not duplicate what is already in place at other institutions and must have as its objective and publication of papers that are relevant to the development of the country. I sometimes have to explain our structure is very different, very deliberately so. We don't have departments. Departments tend to create silos. We don't have faculties. We have programs. And those programs are cross-discipline. But most important, those programs are all aligned with national objectives. The professors are not simply allowed to create a little niche of their own and do their own thing, as it were, in which they specialize. The whole idea is to remove these silos and allow that interface with one objective, the national development. Ideally, most academic staff at universities would wish to pursue areas of research and indeed even teacher programs which fit snugly into niche. While this cannot be denied, we must continue to remember who the stakeholders of UTT are and the vision and mission articulated by those stakeholders which I made reference to earlier. UTT is a relatively young university, 15 years. I recently was reminded that Cambridge is 800 years, so we're 15 years. And while fully funded by the government of the day, my personal opinion is that the political directorate has never attempted to influence staff recruitment or any other activity within the university. This has provided a level of independence of UTT, which we cherish. We are hopeful that in the next few years, UTT will become a creature of parliament that will strengthen its independence in the future, an important ingredient for any university regardless of its funding. As chairman, I have long envisioned UTT as a hub of innovation and creativity. As a tertiary level institution, that distinguishes itself through its unique program offerings and epitomizes excellence and quality. The hosting of this research symposium embodies all of these attributes as it focuses on the importance of systematic, data-driven research to the advancement of society and the production and application of new knowledge. The theme of today's symposium, UTT's role in research, new knowledge, and wealth creation. I was going to make a little suggestion. I would prefer if we said UTT's role in research, new knowledge, towards wealth creation, rather than and, but that's a small point. Positions UTT as an agent of socioeconomic transformation and diversification. As a nation, Trinidad and Tobago, we must create avenues to further drive the economy so as to ensure sustainability regardless of prices of energy. The hosting of today's research symposium is most timely, as it is aligned with the new strategic direction of the university, in which the advancement and application of research and the dissemination of knowledge is of great importance. UTT understands the far-reaching implications of its research initiatives at the macro and micro levels, as it can result in an increase in the quality of life of all. But that cannot remain within the walls of UTT. We must share that pursuit, share that mission, and share the knowledge that comes out of this with the national community, and we must have mechanism for so doing. The world today is transforming at rates never before experienced in the history of mankind. With the invention of the internet, persons who are accessing and disseminating information with alarming speed. UTT, an institution of higher education, must also evolve. We cannot rely only on traditional methods and processes to influence our operations, but rather we must be dedicated in our quest for enhancing the student learning experience by seeking out the best options as available as we leverage the various tools, expertise, and resources that are at our disposal. Most important point, UTT does not exist in isolation, but the university can be looked at as a microcosm of its wider environment. Therefore, the university research efforts, about which you'll be hearing later on today, should be relevant and impactful. As such, I'm pleased to say that the university has recently established, and I draw your attention to this, recently established 3 important centers, all focused on national development. The Caribbean Center of Expertise in Aviation Safety. We're an island. We depend on aviation for moving goods and people. And therefore, the question of aviation safety is something that should concern us, and we can able to develop the expertise and the research that can benefit not just ourselves, but our fellow countries within the Caribbean. Secondly, the Center of Expertise in Food Security and Sustainability, food production, or as the minister correctly told me, he said, no, not food production, he wants nutrient production. I recognize that distinction, and of course that's where we will be pursuing. And of course, these days, most important, cyber security. As you're aware, as you read and hear, that has become an important part of modern civilization. And one has to be very conscious and develop the relative expertise to ensure that we are not either the subject of attacks, as it were, security attack, but also develop the expertise which we can use as a nation. So the cybersecurity research program is one that we are now exploring. In addition to above, the university is strengthening its community outreach program. The intention behind this program will be to allow the sharing of UTT's expertise and experience to the wider community. But as important, benefiting from the talent and experience of our several diverse communities, and thus provide a mechanism for sharing this talent. Over the next few years, we'll pursue an aggressive outreach program so that eventually it can claim the title of being a university of the people and erode the ivory tower image. This can be done without losing its vision and eroding its mission, continuing to produce graduates of excellence, but all with the mission of contributing to the development of Trinidad and Tobago. UTT's academic staff is also involved in a number of consultancies and research initiatives at the national level. At UTT, there's a clear understanding of the importance of collaborative arrangements in the fields of research. As such, there will be a continued attempts to foster relationships with a number of local and international tertiary-level institutions and industry stakeholders. In furtherance of its research agenda, additionally, there will be sustained efforts to attract funding for further research from international funding agencies. Several years ago, UTT held a similar symposium with emphasis on the energy sector. The intention at that time was that this should become a regular feature of the university, resulting in publications that contain peer-reviewed papers presented at that conference. This initiative led to local, regional, and international recognition of the research effort of UTT. Prior to this, while I had the honor of being the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering at the University of the West Indies, we produced a publication entitled the West Indian Journal of Engineering. I'm happy to have read recently, and I'm sure the Deputy will confirm this, that this journal still exists. I would like to suggest that the President and his academic colleagues explore the possibility of collaborating with UWI, Faculty of Engineering, in strengthening this initiative at the UWI, and encourage the staff of UTT to submit papers for publication in this established journal. In closing, I wish to congratulate the President and his staff in organizing the symposium and today's presenters for their efforts. I'm also very impressed by the attendance at this symposium, and particularly we appreciate the attendance of our Honorable Minister, who I know has other pressing engagement elsewhere. I hope this was a nice little break for him. I look forward to engaging dialogue with today's presenters. And I urge you to remember the work of research within the local, regional, and global context. Research is needed. Relevant research is needed to move us forward. And we at UTT are hoping to take a leadership role, cooperating with other tertiary institutions, including UWI, in the pursuit of research that can impact on a further development of this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Julian. You'll notice I just skipped on the stage there to save a few seconds. You heard Professor Julian talk about a deputy being, well, the name of this song is A Deputy is Essential. It was either 1981 or 1982, I remember it well. Professor Liverpool will correct me and pin down the year. It was sung by Sedley Joseph, the mighty penguin, and his son is a very proud product of UTT. He's also a singer calypsonian. The penguin sang about a different gender, but that's all right. I'll accept being a deputy despite my gender. So I was just trying again to make up some time while our performer is getting ready. And as soon as he tells me that he's ready, I'll skip down. You ready, sir? Play on. Thank you, Mr. Warner, Mawasi Warner, on the double bass there. You would have noticed that he was also reading the score, so that at UTT, we teach sight reading, which is a very important aspect of music training. I must mention that at Birdsong, of which I'm chairman, we also teach sight reading. I have a little plug for Birdsong. We teach sight reading also, not just to play. So they don't only play pan by rote. And if you come to we have a summer camp going on right now at UE. We are housed at UE when we were kicked out from somewhere else. You will see exactly what we do. Again, I'm making up time. You're ready, ma'am? All right, shoot.
Don't worry if we fall in love. We will never touch the ground. Don't worry if we fall in love. We will never touch the ground. Just fall into a dream. They say if you die in a dream, you die in real life. Well, I just died in your arms, lost in your eyes. And I know this must be a dream, 'cause it feels like I can fly to heaven. They say if you live in a dream, you're hopelessly lost. But this ain't just any old dream, for our paths have crossed. And I may be hopelessly lost, but somehow I managed to find heaven. I won't worry if we fall in love. We will never touch the ground. I won't worry if we fall in love. We will never touch the ground. Just fall into a dream. La 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 la. We will never fall into the ground, fall in love. La da 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 ya da, la da 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 ya dum ba dum. Aya. Ooh, don't worry if we fall in love. We will never touch the ground. Don't worry if we fall in love. We will never touch the ground. Just fall into a dream.
And she was Tahilia Jones, and accompanied by Daniel Roberts. These performers are all students of UTT, of course. So you see the kind of talent we attract and the kind of talent we develop. So again, Maestro, when you're ready, you let me know. He is Nicholas Joseph, and you probably will recognize the Kitchener tune, which is Pan Night and Day. So, Mr. Joseph, you ready? Yeah. All right, you can take it away. Thank you again. Again, in the interest of time, I skipped up here as quickly as I could. The next item on the program is an address by Dr. Lovell Francis. If you have been to any sort of activity or ceremony or occasion where Dr. Francis is invited to speak, he doesn't have any paper. He speaks off the cuff, he ad-libs, and he's very good at it. However, I am told that he was given a speech by the Prime Minister. So, although you see Dr. Francis here, you have to think of the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. You know, these cartoon type, or whatever they call them, movies these days, they have Whoopi Goldberg is the voice of so-and-so, and Tom Hanks is the voice of so-and-so, yes? So Dr. Francis is the voice of the Prime Minister today. But he is accomplished in his own right, despite being the voice. Well, the voices are all big stars, so in any case, he's a star. Dr. Lovell Francis began his career as an educator, which he considers the most noble of professions. Thank you, sir. Most of us are conceited enough in the teaching profession to think so. Yes, sir. So he started teaching at the, a nice French name, the Grand Chemin Anglican Primary School. I hope they don't pronounce it Grand Chemin, but being French, I have to say Grand Chemin. After which he pursued his teaching diploma at the Corinth Teachers College, San Fernando, which is now part of UTT, of course. Then he went on to do a bachelor's degree, a Bachelor of Arts in Literature and History, and later a doctorate in History at the University of West News in St. Augustine. Dr. Francis began his profession in academia at the university, initially as a research assistant in the history department in UE, and then he went on, of course, to be appointed as a lecturer. He also, of course, supervised several graduate students, both at the master's and postdoctoral level, and made contributions to the department otherwise. Dr. Francis has received countless awards during his time of study. For instance, in the Hearst National Teaching of Science competition, the National Award for Academic Excellence, the Neville Hall Prize for History of the West Indies. Neville Hall, if you know, was a very well-known historian in Mona. I think he was Governor General at some time, was he? I think so, yes, I think. I met him when he was at UE. And the Jose Marti Prize, very distinguished prize, from Monroe to Castro, and the Eric Williams Memorial Scholarship. Always striving for balance, Dr. Francis has never allowed his professional career to interfere with his social obligations. He has remained an active participant in community activities in several ways, and at the moment he's the MP from Moruga Tableland, and as we know, Minister of State in the Ministry of Education. So Dr. Francis, he's young, energetic. You will see it by his gunmouth pants, I think he wears sometimes. So he'll skip up here faster than I will skip down. So Dr. Francis.
Thank you, Professor. Even with the skipping. Professor Julian, good morning. Good morning, Professor Al-Zubaidi, Professor Imber, our colleague from Jamaica, good morning. Mr. Ambassador, good morning. Ladies and gents, good morning. As Professor just said, I am an extempo champ. You write a speech for me, I laugh and fling like Obama. But when the Prime Minister says, you read the speech, you read the speech. So I'm going to read the speech. So just note, I am not I, and me is not me. And here we go. Good day. Today it gives me great pleasure to deliver the feature address at the University of Trinidad and Tobago's inaugural Research Symposium. I would like to thank UTT's chairman, Professor Kenneth S. Julian, for extending this invitation so that I, along with other stakeholders and the wider citizenry, can be made aware of the research being undertaken at UTT, the national university. Having been involved in academia myself for a number of years, and now, in my capacity, not me, the real Prime Minister, as Prime Minister of the Republic of TNT, I take great pride in addressing an audience comprised of students, faculty, and the staff of UTT. I see today's research symposium as a step in the right direction for the institution, since it brings to the fore the core functions of a university. Its mandate to search after truth, to disseminate knowledge, and to be of service to its community. Among other things, initiatives such as this will assist in changing the current narrative surrounding UTT, a narrative which, I must point out, is heavily influenced by the agenda and competing interests of a select few. At some juncture, the national community has to come to the realization that the investments in UTT are in an effort to create new opportunities for our country. Such investment must be managed carefully and efficiently, because institutions such as UTT are not intended as passing fads, but as integral long-term contributors to sustainable national development. Therefore, redirecting the conversation to the contribution that UTT is making in the area of research is critical when one considers the role and the impact that the university has in building capacity within a national context. This redirection of focus is not unique to UTT. In fact, upon assuming office, the government saw it fit to develop a comprehensive, broad-based suite of policy initiatives, projects, programs, and measures which are contained in the National Development Strategy, NDS 2016 to 2030, otherwise known as Vision 2030. The NDS Vision 2030 builds on the principles, mission, and processes of Vision 2020, which resulted from extensive dialogue with civil society, academia, the private sector, and the public sector. Indeed, the overarching theme of the NDS Vision 2030, many hearts, many voices, one vision, is indicative of the cohesiveness that must be achieved throughout several sectors of society. UTT itself was a product of that Vision 2020 dialogue, and as the national university, the contribution of UTT to that vision is significant and cannot be underestimated. There must, therefore, be a categorical alignment of UTT-led research for the benefit of national interests. UTT must seek to address the gaps in national development through its program offerings and research. Graduates of the institution should be well equipped to build capacity in key areas for growth, development, and the diversification of Trinidad and Tobago's economy. I am especially pleased to see that the university will offer several new programs in September 2018, programs which will address areas where capacity has been lacking or new opportunities are developing. These areas include aeronautical and airworthiness engineering, agriculture, marine sciences, sport, and digital media, including animation and music technology. UTT is therefore demonstrating a responsiveness that is important in order to meet the demands emerging in the tertiary education sector. This is a laudable achievement, as there must be flexibility resulting in relevant action to any changing environment. To the degree that challenges are evolving, institutions like UTT must also evolve to help solve these problems. Today's research symposium is therefore not only relevant but timely, as this platform can also aid in informing policy at a national level. As Prime Minister, the other guy, not me, I have chosen to apply a data-based, scientific, holistic, and evidence-driven approach to governance. As university researchers and academics, I believe that such an approach will not be lost on this audience, particularly given the topical areas in which research is required locally. Indeed, The thematic areas wherein which the government focus lies are as follows: putting people first, nurturing our greatest asset, delivering good governance and service excellence, improving productivity through quality infrastructure and transportation, building globally competitive businesses, and placing the environment at the center of social and economic development. Today, I am pleased to see that several of these thematic areas are addressed within abstracts and poster presentations. I look forward to closely examining the posited solutions and have been identified throughout this symposium, as I believe we have to go beyond the surface dialogue and implement accordingly. For a number of years now, experts from various sectors and from several administrations have made the case for a diversification of the national economy. However, Trinidad and Tobago remains highly dependent on the oil and natural gas sector, with exports of these commodities and petrochemicals accounting for 85% of total export earnings, 40% of government revenue, and over 35% of GDP. In today's globalized world, a country's prosperity depends on its ability to generate new ideas and convert knowledge into socio-economic benefits. The research contributions of a national university will go a long way towards achieving such diversification. Further, UTT's role in ensuring a well-educated people is a crucial element for the country as a whole, to respond to the rapidly evolving technological environment. And this will no doubt aid in the country's continued push for diversification. UTT's efforts at expanding its innovative capacity was recently evidenced by the filing of its first application for an international patent in the area of type 2 diabetes treatment, and that is extremely laudable. Locally, we are seeing a rapid increase in the incidence of non-communicable diseases among persons aged 15 to 64. This affects overall productivity since this age group constitutes a large percentage of our local workforce. And there is also a further impact on the national community, as significant portions of the national budget are allocated yearly to manage NCDs, and there are many implications. The research behind UTT's first international patent is a type that is actively needed in a society such as Trinidad and Tobago, and I applaud UTT for such a trailblazing initiative. But I must also challenge you as researchers to seek out ways in which you can commercialize your research, as this can be both a source of revenue generation for the university and a positive source of academic notoriety for UTT and yourselves. Today's symposium will undoubtedly create additional avenues for you to solve real-world problems via practical applications of newly developed or innovative technology. These avenues must extend to the strategic and synergistic business relationships that should be formed between UTT and industry partners or corporate sponsors. Such arrangements will not only support these entities' need to innovate, but also reduce the university's dependence on the government while emphasizing self-sustainability and relevance. The operationalization of UTT's signature campus at Tamana, I am certain, will also play a significant role in advancing the university's research agenda. As one of the largest tenants of the Tamana InTech Park, UTT will play a foundational role in the park's development and future plans. The university's intense research mandate will be needed to highlight the synergies between industry and academia, as sponsored research and the management of innovations and intellectual property will be key. Several specific research clusters have been earmarked as integral to UTT's research plan at Tamana, including, amongst others, technology, including ICT and animation, manufacturing and robotics, biomedical engineering, biotechnology, and forensic studies. Going forward, these clusters are expected to provide the broad direction to the university's research agenda. The Terminal campus will provide a platform to leverage these interdisciplinary research approaches to improve the quality of life of all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave here today, well, yeah, sort of, heartened by UTT's research focus, and I am assured that the National University, UTT, is well on a path to cementing its contributions to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Again, I wish the leadership and management, faculty, staff, and students of UTT the very best with today's research symposium, and I look forward to the application of research beyond today's event. He thanks you, I thank you. And Professor Julian's report will say that I behaved myself, I delivered the speech, and I did not extemporize. Thank you very much, ladies and gents.
Thank you, Dr. Rowley. Thank you, Dr. Francis. Again, the program says that I am supposed to give some closing remarks. I don't want to say I'll be short. I might get some fatigue with my name. If I mention anything short, I might get some fatigue when I go outside. So I'll be brief. There were some things that were mentioned, very important. And for instance, some of the new programs and some of the new initiatives. Airworthiness, for instance. Somebody tried to poo-hoo the idea that UTT to get involved in airworthiness. Why not? CAL, which is BB, has an excellent safety record. Why shouldn't we study how CAL has achieved that and see how we can make sure that it's sustained and even be an example to the region? Why not? Why shouldn't a university in a small country do that? And we are very proud of the aviation campus that has just been finished and is awaiting final approval from the Accreditation Council. And we have Mr. Parasram Jagannath, who heads that program. He's here, very experienced person. So we look forward for great things from that aviation campus, which we hope to internationalize, if I can use that term. Then we also heard about cybersecurity. Why not? Again, the cyber world, the IT world knows no boundaries. You don't need an extensive lab. All you need is a good brain and a good computer to create things. Why can't we get into research in that? So when people make light of the things that UTT is trying to do and is doing, they must be very balanced in the views and don't use other emotions to castigate UTT for one reason or the other. Then there was a question of food security, a very important aspect. And we have both Professor Knights and should I say Professor Maraj, who Professor Knights is overall in charge of our agriculture program, and our extremely successful food technology program is headed by Rohani Maraj. Again, a very important aspect of any nation today. Another mention was made of what we are doing in various areas, for instance, animation. You may have read in the newspaper that a company in Trinidad and Tobago made up 90% of graduates of UTT won a very prestigious contract from Disney. And for that, we have to thank the people in the Academy for the Performing Arts. In particular, in that area, we have the very distinguished practitioner, Camille Selvon Abrams, in that area. She's a very accomplished animator, if I may call her that. In the music department, just our products, and we have very distinguished people in the faculty. We have somebody who was a professor at the Guildhall in London, a professor, one of the most prestigious schools of music and drama in the world. And she decided to come to Trinidad. We have Professor Kwame Ryan, a well-known conductor, at the moment conducting a major Philharmonic orchestra as we speak, abroad. And Roger Henry, of course, who doubles as the leader of our own Philharmonic orchestra. And he told me in the lobby that there's going to be a concert. I don't know if it's going to be free for the public or if you have to pay. He told me it's free for me, so I will come. I think it's on the 6th or the 7th. So we have these distinguished people on staff. As faculty, we also have distinguished students who are performing human service. You must have heard I mentioned Sally Joseph's son and other people who have won competitions, Calypso competitions and otherwise, coming from UTT. So we have these accomplishments. There are so many more, but again, in the interest of time, I went and then the unique combination of academics and sport and our high-performance teams with people such as Tony Gray, ex-fast bowler, one of the most economical fast bowlers in the history of Test cricket, believe it or not. Clayton Morris, former national footballer and captain and so on. And people like that, Bridget Adams, a very accomplished netballer and so on our staff. But lastly, not to keep you for too long, two of the salient points that were mentioned by the Prime Minister through another person, through the salient points, was the question of the patent for a very important aspect of our health sector, diabetes. And we hope to commercialize it, as was said. And in that vein, we expect a second patent, and that was Dr. Varma Rambaran. And we expect a second patent along lines in the same biochemistry, if you like, area from Dr. Natasha Ramrup Singh. So I've called a few names. These just to give you some examples of the kinds of activities we had. And lastly, I am really thrilled by the mention of the Prime Minister, no less, because it was the Prime Minister speaking here, right, of the Tamana campus. It is something that we have to finish. We can't leave this thing idle there, the Tamana campus. And UTT has plans right now at the moment to get that place alive, not just with the Tamana campus, but other things about which you will hear about soon. So again, I want to thank all the speakers, all the performers. I want to thank all of you for coming here this morning. Those of you who came from away, those of you who came from away, not yesterday, like from Europe, for example, and so on. I'd like to thank all of you. And I believe we can afford refreshments, can we? I don't know. I think so. I see they say coffee, you know, when they say coffee, they just want to use one word, but I think they mean refreshments. So thank you again, and let us go and refresh.